let's get some pre-game babbling out of the way. First of all, this is what, Francois the first time. This is going to be Francis moving in to take Milan. Again, scenario nicely covered in Europa Universalis, but here we get to look at it in some significant detail. I had to break out an extra table. I may have been able to fit everything on my table, but with the charts and everything, it seemed worth it to throw up a card table for that. And that gives me a lot more room to hold things. It does make my life a little more cluttered over here, but a couple other things. My wife and I have been played a really awful Euro. Neither of us enjoyed it at Asgard. It's just one of these overcomplicated modern Euros, and I'm just fatigued. So basically between work, I had to set up this morning and then work and playing that, and I don't know if I'm going to get to play much at all today. But, well, we'll keep pressing on through these. Might end up squeezing some other things in at some point. And this is another thing I wanted to mention. This is some of my brandy, the paint thinner brandy, which seems to have, I don't know, my table seems to have recovered from it somehow. But I added a little bit of vanilla syrup for coffee to it. The stuff you can get at like Starbucks and all kind of coffee shops, and just get a shot in there. I don't like it in coffee, but man, it makes this almost like a Southern Comfort or something. It's much more pleasant and way cheaper than, you know, a top shelf something like Southern Comfort. Or, yeah, probably not too much more with the extra bottle of than I used to be able to get a hold of a cheap knockoff of Southern Comfort. I don't know what it was called, but anyway. So this scenario, let's talk about it. Well, let's switch batteries. Apparently I didn't charge, and I was hoping to be able to squeeze more in, but I've already babbled up this whole battery. Much better. Okay, let's look at what we got here. So, oh, by the way, that was another thing I wanted to mention. This last Triumph of the Swiss, I just did it. Apparently over on Europa Simulations website, they have the extended version of this. I looked on Board Game Geek. I didn't think of, you know, hunting for it beyond that. I'm used to everything being there. Somebody ought to put at least a link to it there. Or maybe it's already there and I just didn't see it. I don't know. Anyway, for this one's kind of a weird one. Here's the at-start points, and we're going to see a continual flow. Now, the French obviously have a lot more points than everyone else. What's weird about this one is the alignment of the countries. So essentially you have France over here and down here, and I should have the alignments of all the territories written out. So the only pro-French area is S. It should be up here, I would think. I don't know. I don't know where S is. I thought I would see it easily. S is going to be up here. And the anti-French, the only anti-French, well, these kind of mix, but the main anti-French is going to be the Papal States over here. Most of the rest of it is actually just not aligned. F's neutral. F is this little slash here. And most of the map, though, is Milan. And Milan is going to be one of two things. It's either going to be not aligned or it's going to be anti-French. And there's a diplomacy facet to this game. The main anti-French force is the Swiss, but they're not really convinced they want to fight the French. And that's going to get kind of twisted. So Venice and the French are the pro-French side. The papacy, Spain, and probably the Swiss are the anti-French side. Now, you'll see why maybe the Swiss have to end up anti-French, even though there's some diplomatic influence on the Swiss to help affect them. For our Capitale Generals, we have Francois. I believe we have, is Alviano the commander here? Oh, jeez. No. It must be. I have it here. Somewhere they list them all separately from the normal setup. Here we go. Venetian's Alviano. And I don't think he's on the board to begin with. I think he comes in over here. The game goes, we can probably see it off the map. The game goes out until October here, so we actually are going to have a few production turns, or well, AP point turns, and we got that marked down here. The Spanish Cardona is up here, and we have captured Brescia because the Spanish make their way on the map that way. That's non-aligned in general, though. Who else? Urbino is supposed to come on the board for the papacy, and until he does, there's some restrictions on what you can do with the papal force, papal money at least. And anything else here? Okay, the Swiss have their standard, hey, roll a die, see who you got. We ended up with this guy in charge, Khan. Schinner's kind of special. He has his own personal troops, which have to be assigned to him, no matter what you have here. Now, I could have fit them under Khan, but or Van Stein. Shiner? Let's see. Anything else exciting here? Swiss troops count as reliable. All right. French forces can't enter the papacy as long as the papal force doesn't enter Milan, which is MG and R. Now, C is also... oh, that's just not aligned. Yeah. MG and R are the papal territories, and those are the ones that swing with the Swiss. So, if the papal army enters Milan, then the French are allowed to enter the papal states. French coalition forces cannot enter the city of Milan if the Swiss are pro-French or neutral. And we got more going with that. Multinational stacks. Francois and Cardona can command a multinational force, and they're the only ones who can in terms of capitanos. Subordinate units, though, Spanish, Venetian, Papal, and Swiss cannot be subordinated to other nationalities, but other combat units can, which essentially means French, right? I think so. Italians, the Italians that are fighting in the service of someone, the Landsknechts, they can be assigned, even if they're aligned with one of the others. Swiss reinforcements starting on the August 5 turn over here. We start rolling for Swiss, and basically each turn after August 5th they get a +1. A natural die roll of 6 is just ignored. I guess that means it fails, but I'm not sure. It may mean you re-roll. If the modified die roll is less than 5, nothing happens, but if it's 5 or more with those +1s, then the Swiss get another pile of forces under Royst, which is over here, and he's got another subordinate with him. Not a real subordinate because he doesn't have troops assigned to him, just an unemployed general. Okay, Swiss alignment. So this is kind of weird. So the Swiss were kind of divided as to whether to fight or to accept a truce, and actually the permanent truce with the French, which is what they ended up signing after being beaten, I think. Okay, so at the end of the weather phase each turn, you're going to roll a die, and the French and anti-French player can expend chunks of AP 2 or 5 for modifiers to that if Shiner is in a force of at least 40 Swiss infantry. Now he starts with 24, so he doesn't have a very big force to begin with. He's going to have to gather more, and I don't think that's possible until those reinforcements there come into play. That would give another minus. Only French action points can be used by the French. Spanish or Papal can be used by the anti-French, but not both. And then you roll on a die, and you'll get either anti-French, neutral, or pro-French. The French can decide to quit negotiating and give battle from the beginning of the second turn on before the weather phase, in which case the Swiss become anti-French for the rest of the battle. If any French coalition force enters a hex in M, east of the Trentino River, I'm going to guess that's this. That's what it looks like it says there. And north of the Po, the Swiss become anti-French. So here's how the Swiss act if they're in different status. Pro-French, they're controlled by the French player, but one Swiss unit is selected by the French among those present on the map as desired, and the selected combat unit is permanently eliminated from the game. Now, I don't know if that happens every turn that you roll pro-Swiss. We had Swiss wandering home during it, so that might be the advantage to trying to go for the truce, is eventually you'll have the Swiss leave. The Shiner units, his personal units, are not allowed to be eliminated this way, though. Neutral, the Swiss army is controlled by the anti-French player, but there are going to be restrictions on his movement. There's also restrictions, well, they can't move if they're pro-French. Anti-French, the Swiss permanently align as anti-French, and they're just part of the coalition for the rest of the scenario. French coalition forces may not enter a hex adjacent to an anti-French force, while the Swiss are pro-French or neutral. Now, given that you have this right to interrupt the negotiations and decide to give battle, I think that's false. You can probably throw out those rules as long as you engage. That would be my reading of that. These restrictions are lifted once the Swiss become anti-French. We talked about the regional alignment. Brescia starts out conquered, and then we have discussion and some Italian here that I'm not going to be able to read. Which is fine. Okay. What are our victory conditions? Our victory conditions are kind of a mess. So for the French to win, at the end of any turn, if they own Milan on their own, unbesieged, well, not on their own, if their forces own it, the Venetians can own it too. And there are no Swiss forces in a number of places. Alessandro, trying to remember. Let's see if I can find them all. Vigevano is not there. I think it's up here. Novara, which is this one, where we had the last scenario. I missed one here. Darthona. That's here. You can see none of these are filled except for Novara. Pavia, up here, and Lodi, up here. And at the end of any turn, the French can just declare, hey, if they have Milan and have cleared, and there are no Swiss in those places, they can declare, hey, we've won a standard victory. If they want to get the strategic victory, they have to get that and also take Parma and Piacenza. And Parma is going to be way down here. Piacenza is up here. The anti-French win if the French don't win by the end of the scenario, or if they manage to kill Francis the First or capture. We have the AP scheduling. Didn't we see that already? No. Okay. I've got my supply units on the map. Probably not a lot of interesting flexibility. Cool thing in this one, we have Bayard here. He's got a star. He's also impetuous chevalier. Francis is an impetuous chevalier too. Bayard can't be in command while Francis is in the same hex as him, but and will never be the Capitan General because you lose if Francis is killed. We go over all those special rules? Yeah, I guess so. All right, well, that's about it. I spent a lot of time chattering, but we'll get started. I don't know if I'm going to get started tonight. Here in August, we got a high roll, ended up with heat. That's going to increase attrition chances. I think the French want to throw some points in. How much can they throw in? Well, that's a big question. They could throw 5 in, and that would give them, a chance to sort of diminish the Swiss forces over time. But this is our big points for the game, the 10 points that we start with. So we don't want to go too heavily on that. It doesn't state kind of how you do this in terms of the points, like whether they're secretly placed or whatever. So I'm just going to kind of do them openly. The French are going to spend 2 action points to give themselves a +1. We'll see where it goes. But we don't want to blow through our entire wad all at once. Now, I can use papal. By the way, the Swiss points, this is an interesting thing. Notice that the Swiss do not have points for an army. Let me see how they're handled here. So when they're anti-French, there was some place where it explains how they spend their APs. They're able to use supply line, anybody else's supplies. But I seem to remember that there were rules on their APs. Swiss forces are always controlled by one of the 2 players. They never pay APs for orders. They trace their line of communication to the supply source of any army of the controlling side if need be. Okay. So if I spent 2 for that, that gives me a +1. The anti-French could also spend, but that could only come off of either the Papal or the Spaniards. Now, the Spaniards don't have enough points. I seem to remember there were rules on the Papal forces too regarding the AP expenditures. I don't know where those would be kicking around. I thought there were some orders on this. I'm not finding them. Anyway. Can they not spend? Maybe that's... No, I don't see anything about that. Well, I probably want to counteract, and I'll spend my papal points. It's going to be a long time before the papacy gets its pieces in the board. So we'll be rolling at even because Shiner's not in good command. 3, we're going to have neutral, and that means the Swiss can be moved. I don't know. The restrictions under the command limitations don't seem to apply. I could, I guess, shift forward and kind of try to screw or try to put a grip on the French. I'm not sure. pain there. All right, well, there isn't a whole hell of a lot to do in the command phase. I could go into quarters, but I don't think there's a real reason to, unless attrition is going to be triggered on us. And I don't think the hot weather forces that on anyone. So we're probably just not going to move. Dupree here has a maneuver command though, so I may shift him forward a little bit. Anything else exciting? Not really. And we'll try to get some Spaniards into play somewhere. I've got, oh, who's here? Kerry. He doesn't have a whole hell of a lot, and he's on garrison. I'd rather not spend action points when there's so little present for him. And our first turn ends without a whole hell of a lot happening. Some entrenchment. These guys failed their roll. Without any initiative, it's pretty easy to fail entirely. In fact, these guys got pretty damn lucky to get 4 movement points, but the Swiss have 6 bays. These guys didn't want to march into Milan. That triggers the problem, right? I think. I don't know. I'm so tired. I just read it, but like not long ago. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, north of the Po. Hold on. I can actually move. So here I spent 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can actually capture this. I don't know how much value it is, but I think putting a flag there is of some value. I've got to stop because it's a fortress. I can't just conquer it by moving through. I conquered this, but I don't think it even matters. Okay, so second turn, and it's another hot weather turn here. I think the French are going to spend again. I hate getting rid of those points because those are going to be so important later in the game. But now I have now by spending, I pretty much guarantee myself an advantage because I guarantee myself an advantage on the die roll because the Spaniards and Papacy don't have points. And if I can start getting rid of the Swiss troops, that's going to make life easier. Instead, though, we end up neutral. It would have been fine had it gone on anti-French. Hey, this stupidity would be over. But now I've got to keep paying or rolling or something. It's just hard to come up with that kind of decision making. But I don't want to spend all my action points. Going to the command segment, I can keep marching these guys, and some of the Allied forces can come in. We got some new troops coming in here that I got to throw on the board, though. Screwed up here on these French reinforcements. It says, see, this isn't big. See note 1 above as to how they order. I couldn't find note 1. I finally found it. It's under here. One of my subordinate commanders I have to remove from Francis's force, and I can choose whatever I like to command these lands that are coming in shortly. So I'll do that. I'm gonna pick either Bourbon or La Police to pull them in. It's got to be someone with enough rank, and it takes a 4 rank for that. So that leaves it to these two and Alençon. I guess I could have saved Bayard for that with his good combat ability. But I want Bayard forward in case I do engage. So peel him off and give him those troops. The decision of who to activate, especially in a situation like this where troops aren't right near each other. If troops are near each other, you might want to get in contact, because putting yourself in contact starts causing some problems for them in terms of if they withdraw, you get a pursuit, etc. But when you're at this kind of large distance, it's kind of strange what you're rolling for. So right now I've been, you kind of want to activate your guys with high initiative because they're more likely to survive the die roll risk, right? They're more likely to come out with all their movement points. The other guy has to make rolls though. And in this case, I have the Venetians who have forced, Urbino to only move 1 movement point forward. This poor guy, even with the, he had to add his admin march. If he had started with it, he could have marched down and taken Cremona, which would have been nice. But you've got to stop at the, or drop someone off, I guess, at the fortresses, because you've got to convert them over to you. And that's a problem, because, you know, they're kind of in your way. But if you don't do so, you don't have a line of communication running down that road if they're hostile fortresses. So you've got to clear them out of your way. It's not that hard if they're empty. But anyway, this guy, you know, with his high initiative, is able to cause other people to have bad rolls. So, for example, I rolled with Burn against him, who didn't end up doing anything, but he didn't want to do anything. In that case, I was just trying to burn one of my activations with Burn in order to maybe have a chance where he would have to make his choice, where I would win it or whatever. By taking the activation with Burn, now I don't roll again with him, because if I do, I have to take... that's a weird trade-off there, but I'd have to take an attrition roll. So what basically could happen is... through the mechanism of the command and control, by like, and I guess you could do some hand waving here and say, you know, the orders, the money, it's not all getting through to them as well as it might be, because more focus is being put somewhere else, and that's what that extra roll in the attrition means. That's stretching it for me, but not as much as like just playing a CDG would be stretching it. So I'm willing to do it. So yeah, right now it looks like the French have the edge on the pieces. I've got this guy whom I want to trigger, because I want to build some entrenchments there, just in case my forces... I mean, he's fairly safe in Milan. Milan's a big city. It holds like 10 strength points. Or is it units? But I want to bring someone else back there, perhaps, because Milan is the important place. This is just a forward position I'm willing to hold. And I think I got rid of my retreat orders, which may be a mistake, although it's easy to switch to retreat. So I don't know. So I'm not quite sure. Here's another side effect of the command system I'm not so sure about. So if you have more commanders on the field, if you're spread out all over the place, obviously I understand why that's an advantage on attrition, no biggie there, and that's actually baked in a nice sort of way. But here, with the command system, having lots of extra commanders probably means you're going to have a lot of extra people who can do their full movement. So the more you divide up your command and split it, the more active it becomes. How sensible is that? I don't know, because it's not like it's your small forces that necessarily become more active. You could still have a huge army that you hold for last, and it's going to get all its movement points. Of course, it only gets one action. You're not going to be able to force march without rolling for actions. But all the same, there's something that feels a little weird about the pulsing system and some of the ramifications it has. Things that feel a little weird. The anti-French side gets its last piece activated, actually. And here's what's weird. It's a force of cav, I think about -1, so I have 6 movement points, that's entrenching. Now, I don't feel like cav should be capable of entrenching at all, perhaps. It seems to me that you might have to have infantry and or artillery to be able to entrench. But on top of that, it has way too many movement points. If I had infantry with me, I'd be worse at entrenching. That feels a little funky to me. When I looked at the entrenchment rules, though, it didn't look like there was anything against them using their full movement point and doing that. So that, I think, triggered all of the anti-French. So now all the French guys, or pro-French, get an activation. In particular, I get to dig in here. These guys get to move. He has nothing to do. And other than your main army, I'm not sure how much line of communication matters. I've been capturing these things for the French, but I don't think they make a damn bit of difference, because this is the main army. It's got a line of communications. Also, Line of communication actually says it may be traced into but not through or out of enemy zone of control. Let's see. What it says is it can't be traced through an enemy unit. It cannot be traced through enemy forces, which seems like, yeah, you could trace it down the road anyway. So I don't know quite why I'm taking these towns. It's not really costing me anything here, but it might be here. This I might not want to take. Because even if I retreat to, I think I can retreat to a town and fall into it. I don't know. I'd have to find the retreat rules, and damned if I can figure out here. Execute the retreat priorities. Retreat into a fortress. So I'd have to retreat to an owned fortress. So that's one reason to have things, is that it gives you a place to fall back to. And that probably is somewhat important here compared to otherwise. And I could dispatch a garrison there. The problem is I'd have to send one of my dudes to be that garrison. And also, of course, weakening my force. Because my force is not that big. The Venetians are pretty small. They're facing pretty small things as well. We have one loose dude, Orsini. In terms of, okay, Urbino is not exactly the biggest force, but if I leave a significant portion, which is at least 4 strength points, that may weaken my position significantly. And here on turn 6, it's hot weather again. Now, it's this hard decision. Do I want to spend the 2 points? I haven't gotten anything out of them so far, although the Swiss would have engaged with me last turn. I would have been freed up from the indecision. But it would be nice to get rid of a Swiss unit, right? At least one. I think I'll pay again. I am getting 6 more points next turn, but here's the thing. We saw this in the first game I played where the aggressor ran out of points and time, but over the course of the game and wasn't able to do everything he could. So I don't know how many times I can do this. And this time we get a 4, which blanks us out. And again, I don't see doing much. I'll advance these to the river. I can't cross the river without generating a problem. I think this is all M here, but then this shifts over to PP, which I can't enter until something happens from Urbino, right? I don't remember where the order is for that. Jesus. I can't find, there we go. Okay, M, G, and R, which means we would have to get out of here, I think, because this is R here. So that would be pretty tough. There's one other thing that needs to be done. I need to look at the Swiss. There are reinforcements this turn. So I roll a die, I'm not going to get a plus. If I get a 6, I ignore the result. And again, I don't know if that means I re-roll. I don't think so. I get a 2 with no pluses, that's not going to give me my troops. So we'll continue pushing forward and seeing when they come in. But I don't think we're going to see much this turn. We polish this turn off going into one of the, I don't want to call them economic turns, but one of the special turns where I can get points. I don't remember what the term is. It's not the interphase, I don't think. I don't have a marker for it. I don't remember. Anyway, what have we seen? Well, for the most part, the stasis, the French moved here. But over here we have something interesting. Cardona is moving into place, threatening Seri here. Now, why is that a problem? Well, that's a problem because Urbino is also heading here, and Aviano has had to entrench. Otherwise, he could go up and face. He can face either one of these forces, but he can't be in both places at once. He can't be threatening both armies, and that gives me a real problem. The French have nowhere they can cross except maybe pushing into Papal territory, which of course, diverts them from what they've been wanting to do, which is heading into in towards Milan. And they can't go into Papal territory until the Papal troops actually leave. Once the Papal troops leave, that frees things up. So we've got kind of this interesting dynamic of, as long as the papacy doesn't launch an attack here, we kind of have Alviano pinned. Now, maybe I could leave some forces behind under Orsini or whatever and still push forward. But that seems kind of risky too. So I've got some interesting choices here. Right now, the only fight that's available looks like it goes in favor of the French, I think, or in favor of the Spaniards. Sarri's only got 2 strength points, whereas our Spaniards here, no artillery, so I'm not going to be able to do a formal siege. But as we've seen in the game in my griping and grousing about the sieges, I don't think a formal siege makes that damn much difference. I think I'd be fine launching just an assault on the city. There are obvious issues with it, but the main thing is the formal siege lets you weaken a strong enemy. Cari here is no strong enemy. I'm trying to get new points, and I'm still having trouble kind of finding my footing in terms of what I want to show on video and what I don't. But it's been a while since I've dealt with this after the Venice scenario or the Swiss scenario that I played the cut down version that's in here. So I do want to, I guess, roll on here. We have so many different powers involved in this scenario that I guess we'll see what kind of points we have. So the French have a basis of 6 here on this September turn. Now, the first thing that I gotta do... No, I give the points first. I'm having trouble with my Zoom again. The first thing I gotta do is I gotta roll these, I think. Yeah. And see how many points they get. So they have 6 points. They're not very far from their headquarters in hexes. So... well, they're not right on it. This is traced from the headquarters to the commanding general, the Capitano General. And we roll a couple of dice. We get a 6. He gets all 6 points, which is cool. So he's up to 10. Well, we'll do the Venetians next because they have the next line. Now, this is my Capitano General. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 again on that same line. And I'm due 2. Which means I could well get nothing, but I end up getting a couple of points. Those I can't use on the Swiss. Alright, now to the other side. The Spaniards. I'm going to get 3 Spaniards, but I've got some distance here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 hexes. By the way, the weather's fair this time. 18 hexes with a 9 says I lose 2, which means I only get 1 Spanish point. And that's going to make it hard for me to actually do anything. And we've got the same problem here with the papacy. Oh, here's the star. They can only be used for Swiss alignment until Urbino. Yeah, oh, obviously. So I've got... what the hell else would I do with them? Oh, I could use... No, Swiss don't need points. Okay. What about the papacy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And now we can cut across 14, 15 because we're within 5, but that's still going to put us over here. And we get a 5, which means we're at -2. We were supposed to get 2. Well, we got nothing. And that's going to make it hard for Urbino to actually do anything. And that's kind of problematic for him. He's in maneuver. Now, I could try to throw him into an attack order. I don't want to do that while Alviano's around, but maybe if he left a small garrison, I would be interested in doing that. And then I do the force activation, where I get to make a roll, the quality roll, which would be against, though, not the troop quality, the discipline roll, sorry, but the reliability class. And in this case, just looking at this particular fella, Urbino here, his quality is N's and R's. R's are pretty good, so I'd have a fair chance of just getting the order out. And that's the chance of being able to push your troops on an attack, which of course I wouldn't have done if I had thought. In the first scenario I played, I didn't push my French on an attack thinking that I could continue the siege without. Well, you know, maybe it's worth doing in order to maintain a siege. I am trying to reconcile myself to the siege rules in this game and where they kind of disturb me. Okay, what about orders changes? And what about the possibility of... Well, so here's the problem. There's the optional rule, right? Where I believe this should have been done already before the rolls. I'm not sure. The interphase turn. Before weather. I don't think either side wants to do it. The anti-French don't want to do it because they've got an opportunity to launch an attack here. The pro-French don't really want to delay the game too much. This is scenario 3 here. It ends in October. There's not a lot of time left for them to succeed. So there's kind of this, it's cool that I didn't think of it, basically. What about changing orders, though? Do the French want to continue playing their damn game, waiting to see? I mean, the Swiss are going to come on the field soon. We may want to just launch our attack at this point, because I'm getting kind of tired of what the Swiss are pulling on me. On the other hand, if Dupree comes here, I can swing up here. What are my victory conditions again? I think I need Milan, don't I? And in order to get Milan, I need for the Swiss to be my enemy, because I can't go take it if they're not. So I find it kind of hard to figure out what I'm trying to do in general. It has more to do with arrangement and maybe the arrangement of my poor little mind. But I have to find the victory conditions. I have to get Milan, and then I have other things beyond that. And I'm getting kind of worried that with the siege rules, etc., I'm not going to be able to take it. I've spent some points trying to convince the Swiss. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start fighting the war. And to do that, I've got to buy some actions for Francis, but I also have to worry on the Spanish side, Cordoba. He's going to have to buy some commands. Now, he's not the Capitano General, right? I don't know. I'm going to have to look in the rules to see what we have. Yeah, Cordoba is a Capitano General, so he is considered a large force. Wow. He doesn't have very much. Oh, well. Well, he only has 2 points, which means he's not going to be able to go into attack. And that's a problem, right? So we look for our orders somewhere in these charts, and we spend, a small amount of the game flipping through these charts trying to find the one we need at any given time. So an attack is going to cost us 3. I could try to force that attack. Nobody's got attack orders currently. I could try to force that attack with a quality roll. Do I want to do that? I'm all ends. And what happens if I fail? I think I become flipped over, and that I can't recover from flipped over unless I succeed in getting back into like garrison mode, right? An N. This will be a forcing order, so there's +1. So I only succeed on a 1 or a 2. But do I want to kick around for, you know, until here? I don't know. I gotta think. All orders are rescinded. That's the first thing. So I pulled them all off. The Swiss get their orders for free. They just want garrisons, though, in their 2 locations. Let's look at the French, because I have the most points with the French. I want Dupree, who's a regular unit, to have a maneuver, so that's going to cost me 1. We'll do that for him. Now, the off-map guys don't pay. Those are just, they're set until they actually make it on. Alright, so that's 1. What about Alviano? What do I want with Alviano? Seeing the point totals, I would say, hey, the Spaniards probably aren't going to be able to do anything with the factories. I think I would like to use Alviano to launch an attack on Urbino, perhaps. Am I any good? I don't know. I counted these up, and I'm at like 18. And Urbino... No, I can't enter. I gotta wait until Urbino crosses out of there. Yeah, so I can't do shit against him. Alright, well, I guess that kind of neutralizes my position there. I may want to leave a garrison behind, but I don't think Urbino's going to be able to attack me. So what I think I'm going to do is during the organization is when I transfer units and issue orders. So what I'm going to do with Alviano is I'm going to detach this unit over to Orsini, and now they're in separate commands. I'm going to give Orsini the garrison order. It doesn't cost me anything. Alviano, I'm going to pay for a maneuver order. Now he's my Capitano General, which means he's going to have to pay 2. That's fine. And we'll give that to him. So he's going to be able to maybe aid in the Swiss attack, or to move up here to Certi, but to Seti, but I don't think. Cari, but I don't think there's anything he can really do. Okay. So I have some others. Francis is going to take an attack order. That's 4. I'm tired of waiting. So there go 4. And we'll just get moving with him. Cari is my only other one left, and I take a garrison with him. Now, at the same time as I'm doing this, because there's no, the first player does it first. Okay, cool. So that was done right. So other than the Swiss, who I garrisoned out, now the anti-French have to make their decision. If Cari is not moving, Cordoba may be best reinforcing the Swiss. So I will maneuver with him if I can afford it. Maneuver with him costs 2. That's what I have. And we'll get moving. Cordona, sorry. Okay. The Imperial Spaniards here. We'll just garrison those. We certainly don't want to pay points. It doesn't cost a lot to do anything with them. And finally, Urbino. Urbino's in an interesting position because even if I want to stand, I have to pay a point. So the only thing I can really do with him is retreat. And that's what he'll be taking as his action. Now he just has to fall back to a fortress, and then he can drop into a garrison order, because the move to garrison is always 0. So that all works out pretty well. And yeah, I mean, to some extent our action points determine this. The Swiss have more action points, but they haven't really felt like I've wanted to move their pieces. Now, if I'm moving him, I may want to move Minor B. Why don't we, instead of giving him a garrison, give him a maneuver order as well? If I time things right, we might be able to get Cardona over into Milan. Of course, this is Milanese. I can move through that. I don't have to capture anything. It's already mine for whatever the value that is. Okay. I'm not sure if I have to capture these things anyway. There's some slight advantage, as we said, but not for the supply. So I think we have made our way to the standard roll dice and start activating things. But we're going to start seeing stuff happening because Francis is on the attack. And I do believe, really, Dupree is going to have to move up towards Milan because he can't really take on Urbino. Not until he leaves the Papal States. And we've got our garrison back here to help defend our supply route. Now, I could move my supply route there, but that doesn't really help. It's still one road net that I have to control. Right then. I forgot to set up my reinforcements, but they already have their orders. I don't have to expend more for them yet, although if I'm going to be hitting the Swiss here, well, I'll be able to absorb them, I think, into Francis's force. I don't know. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with those. And the Swiss also rolled a 5, with a +1. Gives them the bonus. If they'd rolled a 6, I guess I just ignore it. So they come on at 40-29. And we had these. I added the French Landsneck breakdown units. So what was that number again? 40-29. It's probably up here somewhere. This hex, and those guys are also in administrative march. Now, in terms of the orders for this is tough because with my experiences with sieges, I'm afraid to try to besiege this. I don't know that I'll succeed. On the other hand, I don't think I can just kind of brush it out of the way with a battle. So I guess I'm going to aim for the siege and see what I can do there. Again, I don't have enough experience with the game to really be sure which will work or which will work better. I kind of fear neither will work, especially since I guess if I launch from here, I only have 2 swamps next to me, so that keeps me from an engagement. So who do I pick from each side? The French have to choose their first leader first, and geez, I just don't know. I don't know what to engage, what I wanted to engage with here. I can't take Urbino on his own. I'm not sure I want to move out of his way, though. This is the problem. I don't know. There's sort of nothing I want the French to move, or their alliance to move. I know what I want to do with Francois, but he's only got a 2 leadership. I really should be using Bayard in command of his own force, although in a field battle he'd be useful. So, this force, I know I want to march forward, I think, but not if Urbino moves. There's this whole balance in play right now. So I'm going to trigger Alviano for them. And then who do the Swiss side want to trigger? I don't really have a good choice here either. I don't have an attack option with either of these guys. I have a maneuver and a maneuver. So I think I'll put Cordona up. And we do the normal roll with a 3 versus a 2. Alviano's got maneuver, right? You'd better. I don't think there's anything else that'll work. Okay, this is not a good roll. So 3 minus 5 is -2. 2 minus 6 is -4. The French win, so I'm going to force Cordona. Sorry. I keep confusing with the more famous Spanish general. I'm going to force him to move. Now, what did I say? 2 minus 6 is -4. He's going to lose 4 movement points. That only gives him 1. We'll march up. I don't know who owns section G there. It's probably neutral. It's not aligned or anti-French. No, that's Swiss controlled, so I don't have to flag it. But that's as far as I could go. I could throw myself into admin march, which might be wise. Instead. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting so few movement points, so let's throw myself into an admin march with that. I doubt that I'll force march. I just don't feel like I need to. And we'll just continue on with this alternating actions. I've given march orders to these units. Given how slow Cordona's moved, I think I just want to pass with the anti-French alliance at this point. They've gotten the 2 units they kind of wanted to move. Urbino back here. He actually, I'm trying to remember what his role was. It wasn't a terrible role. He may have had enough move to entrench. I don't know if you can if you're retreating though, so just leave him there. He probably didn't have enough to do more than a 1 level. Plus, he's got enough room. That's just a fortified town. I think that only holds 4 strength points. So he can be in it, but he can't all be doubled by it. So that's going to allow the French to do their actions. And now I have to start thinking because the Swiss have just passed. Or, I'm sorry, the anti-French have just passed. So getting him on the move seems like a good idea. He has 5 movement points. Make it 10 because of the admin movement. If I do that, we'll get him moving 1. This is a ferry. I think ferries are +2. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I stop here, I take the fortress. I think I want that as a fallback location. It slows my attack down, though. That's the problem. I could just avoid it. I still have to pay a movement point for that item. But I don't have a whole lot of movement left, so we'll flag that. I see no reason to fortify there. Dupree could leave Florange behind, but I'd have to leave either my cav or my infantry. So neither of those seems like a great idea. Now I'm not going to be a primo capitano, or I'm not going to be, no, I'm a capitano general. He's a primo capitano. So he's not going to, be able to do a major battle and have any advantages by having that other guy with him, but that's okay. So, what do I want to do with Alviano? I don't know. I think I want to set up Francois, though. Let's get him moving. He's just got regular march. 1, 2, 3. He's in. He's got 2 more movement points. We want to entrench so we can start a siege. And we give him a little marker. And now, look at these guys moving. I can't move next to him because I've got march orders, not attack orders. So I'll hold there. I'd like to slip around, but I'm not going to be able to do that easily. Maybe if I take this road network instead. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Secondary bridge cost anything? Oh, shits. These don't do that. Yeah. So I was at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm not going to get out of there, so I'm going to be taking some attrition there. Oh, well, this can go away. I didn't want to leave a garrison behind. And now I've got Alviano. I think the most important thing for Alviano might be... So Alviano has a few choices. One is to take Cardona and try to take him out. Another would be to strike up and try to take out the Spanish supply route. Now, the Spaniards can still, I guess, generate... see, I've got the road connection here. I've got the road connection here. If I take this, they're just screwed, actually, because all the roads come from there. That sounds good to me. I think that's going to be my goal, to cut the Spaniards out of supply. Okay, so we spend a movement point putting Alviano into an admin march. He's going to have 5, I assume. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Get further a little more, could I? I could get to here without doing the admin march. I'm curious whether or not I can bail out of admin march. I gotta look that up. I don't remember if it was at the beginning of the turn or at the end. There's so many little things to remember in this one. I have mentioned this before. There's no cost to coming out of admin march, except that I can't keep moving on that activation. And there we go there. Now, do we want to launch our attack? And unfortunately, he is a Capitano General, so he'll be my supply route. I don't have any way around it. You know, you've got to have your operating forces. I might want to move this up next turn because of that. I don't think there's any off-map delay. So a lot of the Zucker designs have this, hey, if you do this, you're... Wait, there's a sign there. Hold on. It just says supply. There's a cost in terms of, like, you usually have a couple turns where you don't get supply. Well, that doesn't much matter because I've got a long time to get to here anyway. So it would have to be triggered there. And I think I'm done. I do not have the opportunity to fire off more activations. Well, I mean, I could do it with these guys, but they're not moving. Are they all entrenched as much as they can be? I assume so. So, yeah, I can't take a second activation with him. And he can't, he's got march orders. He can't go in there. Do I have enough points? Yeah, I have enough points to upgrade him. So I can actually launch an attack. And that's important. But I've opened things up so Urbino can come in. And now that the French have moved up this way and the Venetians have moved this way, Urbino's free to act. And that's the problem with this kind of stasis thing, right? Is that you make the move, the other guy is then open. But Urbino doesn't have any points. So the only way I could get him to act is by a forced order, and he probably can't succeed at that, but we'll see. All right, that's going to put us down to the combat and attrition phase, because I didn't, well, and I couldn't bring these guys in to consolidate with Francis. I can get rid of all these first action markers, and then we'll do combat. But I gotta go do something else. Right, so this is our only possible siege, and we're gonna launch that. And we find ourselves the artillery table. Now he has more guns than I'm used to, 7 here, and he has a siege artillery, which I guess will help us as well. The weather is fine. So he gets +1, but it's firing against a fortified city, I think, rather than a... Yeah, so it evens out. And we get a quick roll. A 3 says we get a DCB. Okay, the B means we have a breach, so we get a level, and we could do an in-breach attack. I'm not sure we want to. Let's see what the DC. He has to make a discipline check for the entire force. And this could actually work out well for once. The discipline for the Swiss, this is the main force. And it looks like he's all discipline 3, so it's unlikely. He's got no bonus star. I don't think there's anything that affects it here. And it's just a single die roll applied to all units. A 3 is a pass, so he's not going to have a problem there. And now the question is, do we want to do the in-breach attack? If we do, I think we can only send 1 unit in. And I'm not sure we really want to do that. Let's see. If we were attacking, probably our best force would be these 2, which gives us a strength of 18. They're cav, but I guess they could dismount and charge into the breach. I think the entirety, on a normal storming the fortress, the entirety would go in. What's nice here is it's an in-breach attack, so it's not a storming, so I don't get immediately disordered. So it's probably worth doing. So I'll send 18 against his 1624. That's not going to give me an odds effect. We're going to be over here on the assault table. Either side has a bonus point. Now this is the Landsneck, and they're going to be defending in an in-breach attack, which looks like, again, a penalty. Those not in storming, apparently. If attacking a force of defending or inside a fortress, this modifier supersedes the not affecting. Yeah. Okay, so it looks to me like we have a +1 on the... Geez, I can't remember if we're on the affecting table for a siege. It doesn't look like it. So this is actually kind of a bad attack. Oh, except that's a fortress, so it can hold 10 extra strength. It doubles 10 of the strength points. So I think we actually end up with a -1 die roll to counteract the +1, but it's still worth doing. And we're non-affecting, I guess. We get a crappy 1 though, which means the attacker takes a 1d. The 1 is going to be the number of strength points. I lose 1 of my awesome cav, and now we take the disorder check, which we may not be in too bad a trouble with because we have good quality units, and we passed that easily. So the siege was partially effective, but not totally, and only when we get a new breach are we, I think, allowed to do the in-breach attack. So not much value to that. Now we just go to the attrition, Two. Looks to me like there's a couple of units who have attrition. Let's take care of this one first. This is Bourbon, who has 1, 2, 3, 4, sounds like 32 strength points. Wow, that was more than I thought. And no modifiers that I can think of. So he's okay. The Swiss are at 8, 24 strength points. He has a siege status marker, but he has a line of communication coming out this way. So, what did I say? Sounds like 24. Oh, he got hit. He takes a hit. Doesn't really matter what I take it off of. These guys have some limitations on them, so I'll take them off them. Although actually they're the less, we're not going to have departures. The Swiss have been invaded. But now Francis has bigger forces. He has 8. There's 7 of these. That's going to be 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 18, and 16. It's 34, 41, 45. I think we're over the limit here. So he's got a big pile. And he rolls a 1. That's going to only be 1 loss, and I can take that off kind of the weakest stuff I have. Now, I've been taking things off these French low-quality units. I'm not sure if they're the best choice for me to hit, for the simple reason that they have the firepower advantage. I am going to take it off them, though, because they're such low quality. But wait, S versus V, does that matter? S is sensitive, V is very sensitive. So those Landsneck are going to be hard to continue the fight with. I'll take the hit on the Landsnecks just because they're kind of questionable. And that is the end of this turn, which pushes us deeper into September and pushes this online where you can view it.